guys. Hi guys. Okay, so once again, my name is Caitlin, and I'm probably just gonna take around 5 minutes to wait. Do you want me to stand?
Yeah, stand up.
Okay, cool. So I'm probably just gonna take around the next 5 minutes to kind of just share some of the most important lessons I've learned from high school and how to best approach high school, if you guys are curious about that. So the first thing is in regards to education. So throughout the 4 years of school that I've been through, I think one of the most important lessons I've learned is to appreciate and genuinely love learning itself. And I know that a lot of times in high school, it's very easy to get caught up in like focusing on only your GPA or only your grades, and all those things are very important, and you should strive very hard to aim for the highest possible that you can for that. But I also think it's important to kind of look at the subjects that you're taking and learn how to appreciate what you're actually learning and the content behind it, because high school is one of your last chances at a free education, and I think my friend Emery would agree with that. And there's so much for you to actually explore in high school, and there's so much potential for you to learn and grow as a student. And so it's really important to not lose sight of that. And I think that if you can kind of gear yourself into this mindset of appreciating learning for what it is, it'll make the stress of high school diminish by a significant amount, just because when you love what you're doing, things don't seem as bad. So that's kind of my first piece of advice. The second piece of advice when it comes to education itself is to develop relationships with your teachers. And I think that this is so important because some people think that teachers are scary, or you don't really like your teachers because they assign a lot of homework, blah, blah, blah. And teachers aren't perfect, but they're also people too, and I think we need to remember that. And the good thing about developing relationships with your teachers is that they are some of the wisest people and mentors that you can kind of look up to, and they are essentially there to support you and to help you. And so if you can kind of facilitate a stronger connection with your teachers, a lot of times they can give you wonderful advice, whether it comes down to signing up for what classes to take, or if you're ever in a rough spot, or if you need advice for college applications. So I think that there are a lot of ways to go about this. Teachers are generally really open to talking to you, so whether or not that's going in during lunch to get help with a subject that you don't understand and asking questions, or if you just like to talk to them after school and stay a little bit after class and ask them how is their weekend or how is their day. I think that you'll find that you'll actually like a lot of your teachers and that you'll learn a lot from them. And so I think that's also very important, and it makes high school a lot more manageable because they're there to help you. And then when it comes to extracurriculars in high school, I know that there's a lot of scramble to kind of do a bunch of activities because you want to kind of put them on your resume, because the stress of college applications is kind of always there and it's looming. I think that the best way to kind of manage this stress and to kind of find a balance between reaching for your dream school and aiming high and also doing something good in this world is to find activities that you genuinely love and are interested in. And so my biggest piece of advice to do this is, when you're young, explore and put yourself out there and try new things. I did say to do something you love, but you should also remember that sometimes the thing you love, you don't even know that you love it yet until you do it. And I think that a good personal anecdote I have of this is I kind of found my, place in high school in a club called the Junior State of America, or JSA. And basically it's a national student-run political organization, and we host conventions where students debate over the weekends for students all throughout our state. And I personally was not very into that when I joined high school. I think I was kind of pushed into going into the first club meeting. It's a club at my school essentially, and I think Emery kind of brought me along, and I was not really into debate at that time. So as I started to do it more and more, it wasn't something that I instantaneously fell in love with, but I kind of stuck with it for a couple months, and I found that I really enjoyed the student-run aspect of it when it comes down to leadership, because it is a club essentially run by students, and there's lots of room for innovation and implementing ideas. And I think that JSA showed me that, you know, even though we're young, students can do some amazing things in this world and make an impact. And so I kind of fell in love with that, and that's kind of what I channeled most of my energy in high school into, and I learned a lot in the process. And because it was something I loved, it wasn't always easy, because being part of clubs and being in the leadership is oftentimes very, very stressful. But what made the stress manageable is knowing that you believe in the cause that you're working for and that it's doing something good and that you genuinely appreciate. So to basically summarize, make sure to just explore a lot and and find something that you care about, and it'll essentially make high school a lot more fun and enjoyable, and there will be good rewards at the end, and you will learn a lot about yourself and grow a lot as a person, a student, and a leader. And then the final thing that I want to talk about is if you're interested in community service, I want you guys to kind of view this world as a place of endless opportunity. And the reason why I say this is because some of you guys are really interested in a variety of different causes, whether or not that's, you know, like helping the homeless or education equality or something to do with medicine, you know, like American Red Cross. And the thing is, regardless of what your interest is, the one unifying piece of advice that I could say about service itself in general is to always kind of look for what more you can do. Because right now there's plenty of opportunities for you to get involved with already, you know, volunteering opportunities. And I encourage you guys to seek all of them out and kind of find what you're interested in. And after you find what you're interested in, you should also understand that there is more you can do than just volunteer. I think that there's tremendous potential, and some of you guys have amazing ideas of how you want to fix problems that you see in this world. So if you observe an issue or a cause or a social issue that you care about and you think that there's something that can be done about it, think of a project that you can do to fix it, because even though, you know, there isn't already a volunteer opportunity for it, you can create one yourself. And definitely take advantage of resources. If you want to pioneer a project, go online and see, you know, what resources there are for it. For example, I did a project with Many Mansions, and so how many of you guys have like heard of that? Okay, yeah, so basically, if you guys don't know, it's a nonprofit in Thousand Oaks, and it's dedicated to kind of like helping low-income children and families, and we provide them with resources and housing and stuff like that. And so I started off as a tutor there in their after-school homework tutoring club, and then afterwards I decided that I kind of wanted to not only just do the education aspect, but also kind of do more leadership development with the kids, because I thought that was kind of lacking. And so I actually applied for a grant to kind of sponsor the project, and we were able to kind of acquire funds to help buy materials for it. And so the point of this is to kind of just look around to see what's available for you. There are plenty of things out there that are available to support you and your ideas, and so to make sure you're utilizing them all to your fullest extent. And I think you'll find tremendous happiness in what you're doing. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, perhaps we'll let all 5 of them finish their sharing, and then let everybody ask questions later on. If you have questions, you can begin to think about that, and we highly encourage you to ask questions and to have a two-way dialogue. Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Emery again. I'm not going to talk that long because I do want you guys to have time to ask questions. But I just want to say, the number one thing is that you have to find something that you're actually passionate about, because if you just do a bunch of activities that you're not actually that interested in, not that it's about colleges, but they can tell. And also, you're not going to get a lot out of the activities that you do if you're not actually passionate about them. So find a few activities that you actually really, really care about, and really invest in them, because what you put into it is what you're going to get back. So that's just the first thing that I wanted to talk about. And then the second thing is just obviously there's a lot of components about your education. There's grades and extracurricular activities and talking to your teachers and all of those things. So I want to talk about what classes that you should be choosing, and just keep in mind that even though you want to get good grades, you want to choose difficult classes. You want to challenge yourself, because if you just choose easy classes, you're not really going to learn anything, and you're just going to kind of fly by. And you don't want to spend your education or your last time at free education just kind of sitting there and not really learning from what you're doing. because you are gonna like have to spend time at school, so you might as well actually gain something from it by choosing classes that you think you can really learn from. And then another thing that you want to keep in mind is like with extracurricular activities, I already kind of talked about like being passionate about them, but you also want to be consistent. And a good way to like make sure that you're consistent is like not only keeping track of yourself by being responsible for yourselves because you are like getting older, but also like actually choosing activities that you're going to want to be consistent with. So I understand that like it's a lot of stress, you know, because you like want to get into a good school, but if you choose things that you're actually interested in, it won't feel as much as like stress, but something that you like actually want to do. So it won't feel like a task that you are like forced to complete, but something that you're like actually interested in and you're going to continue doing probably longer than just while you're in high school. So yeah, and then also with like volunteering, again, choose causes that you actually care about so that you can make sure you actually invest a lot of your time and genuine effort into it rather than just choosing things that you think will like look good on a college application. And I understand that that like might be kind of difficult to like realize at this time because you are like mostly like applying to try to get into college, but your like education right now is a lot more important than just getting into college. It's also about your actual growth and like what you learn from the education and activities that you're choosing right now. And then the last thing is also like it's not just about like clubs and extracurriculars or like volunteering experiences, but even though you guys are young, you can also look to see if there's internship opportunities for you right now. If you do go to Westlake, I don't know if other like high schools have this, but we do have like the College and Career Center, and like if you're going to Westlake, like Miss Mertel is like super nice and super helpful, and if you have like any questions about like anything with like college or like your career or like internship or volunteer like experiences, you can ask her, which kind of goes into like also like taking advantage of like your resources and asking questions like to people who can actually help you. Yeah, and if you guys have any other questions, we'll just like get into that later. So.
Hello, I'm Matthew. So, Caitlin and Emery both talked about like taking the classes you're enjoying and like pursuing the path that you want rather than the one that would like earn you the most wealth or that your parents would expect. So, can I share a story? So in 10th grade, I took environmental science. Oh yes. I took environmental science, and it was really informative and really made me care about the environment. I think one of the things that illustrated this was an article we read. It talked about a speaker who talked to a group of 5 billionaires about like the future of the environment. And one of the things it mentioned was that the speakers all like ask questions about escapism rather than trying to remedy like the environmental damage.
Excuse me, Matthew.
Yes.
You're probably easier if you stand up and then you speak over it, but I can't get it over there.
Sorry, this is really fine.
To you, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So like instead of like seeing the environment as like a community effort, instead they're only thinking about themselves. Like even though they had like the wealth to try to cause like major change, they're like trying to like find ways of like building bunkers or like trying to fly to Mars. And then I think the main message of the class, like Ms. Boyd was trying to tell us, that there is no way when it comes to the environment. Like one of the ways is that like there is no hiding from environmental damages. If we like spill pollutants into the ocean, it's going to affect the ecosystems there, which will then affect us. And also, if and also that there's no like a wave. There's no way for people to like try to avoid the issues. We have to work together in order to solve it. So.
We have plenty of time, don't worry. Take your time.
Oh.
So I guess what I'm getting at is that you should pursue the field that interests you most. Like instead of like worrying about wealth and like financial stability, you should like concern yourself with like the path that would be most meaningful to you. So like success doesn't mean wealth. It means like doing the things you want and then causing meaningful change and helping and inspiring people.
Sorry. Hi.
You're good.
Okay. Hi, all. My name is Maya. I actually came here 2 years ago, I think. I was in the audience and I was listening to some students, and now I'm back. So, hi. I think I agree with all of you guys. It's really important to find things that you care about. And when I first came into high school, I kind of felt that a successful high school experience was almost a formula. So you get like a good GPA, good SAT score, and then you're like really good at a sport. And then if you have all those three things, you can get into any college you want, and it's all good. But then I realized as I was going through high school that it's not just like a transition period to college, it's more of a time for you to find out who you are, what you value, and what you're passionate about. As I went through a lot of classes, I found that there were a lot of societal issues that were really, really important to me that I really wanted to tackle. For example, the energy crisis is something that I really am interested in and I want to pursue. So I learned how to, like an introduction of how I can use what I'm learning in school and address those issues. And I think that's something really important that I hope everyone will take away by the end of their high school experience. I also learned how to, there were a lot of challenges that I had in high school, both like in my personal life and in my classroom life, and I learned that getting help is really important. So as Caitlin said, going to teachers when you're struggling with something, going to other students when you're struggling with something, and also really going to your family when there's something that's going on. Family is really, really important, and that's something that I learned in high school especially. And then finally, I learned about the importance of an interdisciplinary education. So I just wanted to ask, how many of you guys are STEM, like you wanted to be a STEM major, or like you're interested in STEM? How many of you guys want to do engineering? Anyone know? Okay, is anyone here a humanities, like want to do humanities? Okay, yeah, I had a feeling that. Okay, so I also, when I went to high school, thought like, if you want to be a STEM major, you only become interested in STEM. And if you want to be like a humanities major, you only become interested in humanities. But as I got through high school, I learned that there's a lot of cool ways that the humanities and the STEM can kind of be combined together in your education. And I think that's really, really important. So even if you're like the engineering major guy, you still need to be like, I think it's still really important to be interested in like humanities and literature and history, because those like are important things to be a good person and important things in societal issues that you want to address later on. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
So, hi all, my name is Richard. It's nice to meet you all again. So, just a quick touch on the questions. It's just that I would suggest not to ask about us about like numbers. So like don't ask about us like our GPA, don't ask us our SAT scores, ACT scores, because those are things are not necessarily the most important aspects. Be more like, does this matter? Does this like, how can I make myself more unique? Something along the lines of that. Because numbers are not who you are, and you don't want to be defined by those numbers. So that's just a takeaway. It's just for your questions as you keep thinking about it. So my takeaway from the college application process, one, it kind of sucks because you have to write so many essays. I'm going to be blunt because you have to write over and over and over, revise and revise. But think about the college application process as a reflection of your career. So in high school and even through all the schooling you have done for the past 12 years. And honestly, you have to find your own voice and find a theme that's you, all right? Now, obviously, for the thousands of computer science engineering majors out there, okay, it's kind of hard to be unique, but because there's so many of us, so many people are doing it. But in the end, you have to find something that does not necessarily have to be related to your major. So I don't necessarily have any clue what I want to do when I grow up. I'm still considering my options as a mostly undecided, exploring through the first 2 years of college. But my major theme was language and communication. So for speaking of GPA, you don't need to take all those AP IB classes. You don't have to take an AP class for the sake of being an AP class. If you're not interested in art history, don't take AP art history. Okay, just don't do it. I never took AP art history. Instead, what really fueled my passion was languages. So in high school, I took 2 languages in high school. So I took Spanish and French. Didn't go the easy way out of Chinese because we talk in our own house, so that's just obvious in that one. But like you have to pursue that sort of language. That was my common theme that I like to talk about. So I talked about my communication as like a leader in like the swim team, and talking about language in like piano, for example. I'm a huge musician, and that is one of the biggest factors that allowed me to, one, continue my passions, but 2, be able to demonstrate how can I contribute to the society that the college has created for a quote-unquote well-rounded class. And being able to stay open with your options, whether it's STEM, but also incorporate the humanities. There's some times where you might have to cite a historical fact in one of your majors, you never know. Or being able to incorporate language into one of your majors, or vice versa, and it's really important to be thinking about that. For me, you also need to have a balance. I think we mentioned balance before, but also there's a balance between academics that you'll have to think about, the social aspect. Yes, you do need a social life, and no, playing video games on Fortnite or Call of Duty, any other stuff with friends does not count. Go out with friends, de-stress, because it's actually really important through high school. You're going to be faced with so many friends who are going to be pursuing so many different things. And don't feel pressured to follow what they're doing. Find your own voice and do it in that way. But also, finally, de-stress, have fun, and just relax and be talking about something other than academics. Talk about like what's happening on the news. Just relax and be able to just find that balance, but also make sure you work hard at it. And I mean, after that, there's not much I can say. You have to, but also like, because it's just that sort of balance. Being sure that you have the support, whether it is from your teachers, which you do need to talk to your teachers, find some of your favorite ones, and really get to know them, because I'm sure they'll be able to get to know you in the process as well. And then also be good to your parents, because they'll be paying for your education, don't forget. But also be able to have a good conversation with them and say like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this, so am I able to like take this class? Just work out with them, communicate with them, because you don't want them to be so forceful on you. You have to take this class, you have to take this class and this class if you're not really interested in it. Please talk to them, go through the process of communication, because that is actually one of the key things in order for you to grow yourself and being able to communicate with others in the real world. So that's just what I have to say.